So today we're going to work on a little bit of a Kydex project. I've been running the arc belt from Haley Strategic, a heavy Tigris concept that I didn't mind, but being that the color is green and my assignment changed, I can no longer wear this one on duty. I really got attached to those 30-degree canted magazines, so I picked up a set that I married up with a bison belt. So they're not made to go on a bison belt. They actually did marry up decently. There's still a little bit too much play in there that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't want them moving at all. The Tigris concept is great. I have seen a few drawbacks. So when I say they're Tigris concept, they're actually using Tigris to affix your magazines to your belt. It's super light. The install is kind of a pain in the butt if you've done it. It's not easy to do. I am going to have to try something different. There's just a little too much slop and movement, and I don't want to go buy another belt. Well, full disclosure, I guess, HR2 is nice enough to send that belt to me. I didn't pay for that, but I just don't want to buy another one, and I don't want to ask them for one by any means. So we're going to see what we can do to come up with something a little bit different. I know I could go buy something to fix that issue easy enough, but it's fun to try and create and do something by yourself. It's a fun little hobby to play with some Kydex here and again. So that's what we're going to try first. So this is going to be the prototype number one. I'm going to try and build one single unit using just Kydex and see what that looks like. Kind of have an idea of what it's going to look like, what I want it to look like at least. Prototype number one, they never come out as great as what you'd like, but we're going to jump into prototype number one and give it a shot. We'll kind of see what we come up with. I always kind of develop more plans on the fly. I don't sit and draw this thing out. I just kind of have an idea up here and I try and make it work. So let's jump into that. We'll see what we come up with. It's probably going to be some abomination, but when I go for it on the second attempt, generally I kind of figure out what I need to change, different concepts, different ideas. It's going to be a little bit more challenging than some of the Kydex projects I've undertaken, but had a little bit of practice, and why not challenge yourself, try something new. So let's jump into that. All right, so first attempt here, not terrible. It's definitely a lot different than the way I normally do it. So I went with more of the 30-degree here and almost like just maybe at the most 15, maybe 10 degrees on the rear magazine. I thought about doing them both 30, kind of went away from that. I've seen a lot of setups where guys are running that front mag at the 30 and that secondary magazine, straight up and down, no angle to it at all. So I'm going to play with a slight variation of that and see what I think of that. So we'll continue the process here. This is the stage one of the abomination. We'll see if we can clean it up, get some curvature to it, and see what we can do with the retention. I don't have everything I'd like to have the perfect retention setup here today, but I have a couple ideas for prototype one. So we'll see if we can make this thing work. Casualties of not paying attention where I set my stuff. Burned a nice little hole in the base of the camera bipod. But I think we'll be okay. Still works. So there's many steps to this entire process. So when you get this big ugly hunk, what I like to do is just take a nice good pair of scissors. They'll cut through this stuff pretty much no problem. You can take a razor knife and take it to it. I've actually used a grinder before. I just find it easiest to use the scissors. So I just make a very basic outline where I want to cut using a marker. Start there. I'll trim it down to there. And then I'm not going to worry about what it looks like at that point to do the rest of the cleanup with a belt sander at that point. So we go to town out with these scissors. We got to do the same to the back because this is a two-piece project, not an overlay. I like to do overlays a little bit better. It's a little easier to do, but for this project, didn't seem like the way to go. So I'm going to start chopping away at this thing. I'll report back here, probably about 10, 15 minutes of working on this thing will make it nice and pretty. It'll be a snap of a finger for you. So this one's a little tighter than I'd like, but a little too late now. Hole's already there. Seems like every time I cut, there's always one that doesn't work out exactly how I'd like it to. But gotta fill the hole. It's too late now. Prototypes end up with some wacky holes in weird places that I don't end up filling every now and then. It just looks a little ridiculous, but makes it work. Well, that'll work. All right. Last hole. So I have a couple different sets of grommets. Anything I have, it's going to be lower end stuff. I don't go crazy spending money on this stuff. It's all something that shit I get off Amazon. I make my own press out of stuff I just had laying around the house. You can go spend as much money as you want on Amazon. I've had pretty good luck with either making it myself or just kind of spending like a lower amount of money. And I guess I shouldn't say go spend your money on Amazon. If you're going to go spend money, buy something reputable, go someplace nice. Amazon stuff works fine, but I'm absolutely waiting for the day that my grommet press handle snaps in half and I will lodge the rest of it inside my arm. And then I can sue the producer of the product. We'll go from there. But I've had pretty good luck with just kind of starting small. I wouldn't go spend a ton of money on product until you kind of have an idea what you're doing and slowly kind of upgrade what you're working with. That being said, I would say do just buy a grommet press. You'll see the finicky little presses that you can use with a hammer. Don't waste your money on that. Everything I've read about those is they're absolute trash. I don't remember exactly what I paid for this, but I bought this on Amazon. It didn't cost me a ton of money. So that's the one thing I would say, spend some money on. You can get Kydex cheap. You can buy sheets of Kydex like the ones I purchase. I buy 3 of these at a time. They do go quick, especially when you make stupid mistakes. But once again, it's a hobby. It's something I do for fun. This is not something I make money on. But it is enjoyable. It's a nice little way to get away. But we'll see how this thing turns out. I actually have kind of high hopes for it so far. It's going to be a little bit ugly, but that's how you get better. So we'll see what the finished product looks like here shortly. So this is the one thing I didn't skimp on. I bought myself a high quality belt sander that is table mounted. In all reality, this is a $25 sander that is probably stolen from somebody else that I picked up at a pawn shop. But this is the cleanup process. This is where we take and we go ahead and we polish our turd, put lipstick on the pig, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to make this thing a little bit more presentable and get to work on it. And I could cut off more when I go through with the scissors, but you run the risk of taking too much. So I try to leave enough to where I don't get super close like that grommet right there, barely fit. And just because I cut too much off to start with. So I don't like to cut off a ton. I like to have enough room to have that edge right there to where I have some room to kind of bevel it down and make it nice and clean it up. I don't want those sharp edges. So we round off everything we can, clean it up and make it a little bit more presentable. And then we'll bend it to get a nice fit out of it. You don't want a straight magazine pouch like that. Our goal is going to be to form fit this thing to a hip, or what me personally, I carry it on my front left hip. So I'll end up form fitting this thing with a little bit of heat once we get it cleaned up. So one issue you can run into, especially when you're making shit out of Kydex, magazines specifically, retention problems. So having a nice, good seat to where you can draw the thing, but it's also not just going to fall out. You got to find that perfect balance. This actually turned out wonderful as far as the retention goes for this thing. So these are both fully loaded magazines now. So there's a bit of weight to them. The thing is not coming out. If you're in a foot pursuit, going over fences, it's in there. That one slid a little, but those are not coming out. Yeah, very happy with that. That was another issue I was having with some of the other magazines I was running, was they just fall out. So very happy with that. That is actually probably one of the harder parts to achieve. Not too tight, but not loose enough where these things are just going to fall out on the ground if you're going over fences or chasing after somebody. So pretty stoked on how that turned out. I got some good plans for version 2. I'm pretty happy with version 1 at this point. All right, we're going to take a look at the finished product. I threw a hasty retention system on it, so it's going to be nothing fancy. There's going to be some wobble in it side to side a little bit still. What I'm going to end up doing with version 2, the retention system will be back behind the magazines. Right now it's just centered. So I'm going to have a little bit of play side to side, but something we can clean up. But it came together pretty good. Only a couple of extra holes, so to say, but we'll fill that guy in. He's going to be used, so that'll go away. I like how the angles turned out. I have that 30 degree going on here, and basically a very slight cant with that secondary reload. Almost straight up and down, but a slight cant just kind of keeps it away from the bottom of your carrier. I will likely move this setup either, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to have to see what it feels like in a car, but I have the ability to kind of go up or down. So if I want to move it up a little bit, I can do so. If I want to move it down a little bit, I also have that ability. So it's not a small unit, it's pretty big. And what I actually did was form fit it to my side. So when you pop the belt off, this is 100% customized to me. So you can see that it's actually form fit to me specifically. It's not just some random angle that I chose. Heat it up, put a little heat to it, and it actually form fit right to me. So I like it thus far. It feels much more sturdy than what I was dealing with. So like we said, the problem before I was having, it just felt like there was too much play and too much movement. And there's still some right now, but I know we can get rid of that just based off of the hasty retention system I did use. But the draws seem crisp in and out, which is what I'm looking for. Re-retention I was finding was a slight issue just because of the lip on the Glock magazine there. So I just actually went in and used that little Dremel and Dremeled out the inside a little bit further because I was catching that lip. So re-retention is not perfect yet, but for prototype number 1, I'm pretty happy with it. We can clean it up, make it a little bit prettier next time. But it's probably something I'm going to take out and try out. It's a little bulky, and I'll see if that's going to be an issue. I was thinking of sitting in a car, it might be a problem, but I can always move it back a little bit further since it is contoured to that hip area for me. But I'm not mad about it. It turned out okay for something I just threw together with stuff I had laying around the house. So thanks guys for watching. Let me know what you'd have done different. If you have any critiques, which I'm sure somebody knows how to do it much better than I do, feel free to throw them in there. Like and share. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good evening.